Hello and welcome. Hello and welcome. Today we are going to see classification of research. Uh, we'll discuss this classification of research, the steps of research or research process. Number one, this classification of research. Research is conducted at different level and for different immediate purpose. Generally, there are two types of research: basic research or fundamental research, and applied or action research. Basic research is designed to add an organized body of scientific knowledge and does not necessarily produce results of immediate practical importance or value. So fundamental research contributes to new knowledge in the form of theory or facts and truths. An example is studying the difference between trained and untrained teachers' performance. The teacher may, for instance, develop a research question. Is there statistically significant difference between performance uh, of these trained teachers and untrained teachers? Is there a statistically significant difference in the performance of trained and untrained teachers? This is just to know whether there is a difference. And this research question has no immediate practical value, but the researcher is interested only to add knowledge to the current body of knowledge. The second one is this applied level or applied research or action level research, action research. So applied or action level research is undertaken to solve immediate practical or pressing practical problems in the goal of adding knowledge or contributing to scientific knowledge is secondary or tertiary. So applied research or action research is purported to solve or to solve social problems, community problems, a pressing problem at the country level or region or clinical level. For instance, improving current practices in hospitals or in clinics, improving teachers' performance at university level by delivering these how to teach training courses. For instance, test construction, it can be test construction, it can be different pedagogy courses. These courses or training is designed to solve immediate practical pressing problems for the university or any specific community. So applied level research includes process by practitioners attempt to study their problems in order to guide, correct, evaluate their decisions and actions. For instance, an example is evaluating students' performance in Asosa University or evaluating the performance of second-year psychology students in a specific course. Another example is how to solve or how to improve students' pronunciation. Uh, the second component that we discuss in this presentation is steps in research or the research process. The first is developing a research idea or hypothesis. So researchers first identify an issue or a problem that they want to study. So that means they identify their topic for research, their topic for research, or their hypothesis, or their basic research questions. These research questions, as we have discussed, can be applied level, applied type of research, or basic or fundamental research. So where do researchers get their hypothesis, their first research ideas. They get from these sources of research ideas, for instance, observing everyday behavior, people's behavior in their community, reading scientific journals, reading handbooks, reading textbooks, reading newspapers, reading magazines, or simply watching videos, watching films. So researchers can drive hypotheses from watching videos, films, televisions. An example is, for instance, evaluating the effectiveness of cognitive behavioral therapy technique in the treatment of social phobia, or comparison of the effectiveness of cognitive behavioral therapy in rational emotive therapy in the treatment of social phobia is an example of this developing a research idea in hypothesis. It is therefore an applied level research topic. So researchers state clearly the relationship that they want to expect or emerge in a research. So hypothesis development in this regard, because it is quantitative, involves deductive reasoning. In deductive reasoning, researchers drive their specific hypothesis from ideas, from general ideas. For instance, there is the social learning theory, Albert Bandura's social learning theory. Do children who watch violent TV manifest more aggressive behavior than children who watch normal uh, movies? So this kind of research topic or idea is derived from social learning theory, because, as you know, social learning theory uh, proposes that people or human beings learn their behavior from their surroundings through observation, imitation, or vicarious learning. And this topic, that is, do children who observe violent films or movies manifest more aggressive behavior than children watching normal films or romantic films, is derived from social learning theory. Another example is during your literature review, for instance, you may have come across a theory about how memory operates. And therefore, you may state a specific hypothesis logically from that grand theory. Meaningfulness of meaningfulness of information to be learned causes an increase in amount of data remembered. So these specific statements connect the two variables in our hypothesis. And our hypothesis, remember, is derived from the general theory. The second one is this choosing a research design. You must decide whether to do a correlational study or an experimental study. By the way, choosing a research design is dictated by your objective or your research question. First, you get your research question or hypothesis uh, or objective from different sources we have mentioned earlier, and then you devise your research design based on your hypothesis. So research design does not guide your hypothesis or objective, but your research objective or hypothesis should guide your research design. So other important decisions at this point includes whether you conduct your study in the laboratory or in the field, and how you are going to measure the behavior of interest. For instance, in the case of aggression, how do you measure aggression? That means we have said that children, for instance, who watch more violent films or horror films may be more aggressive than children who watch romantic films for 1 week. So we should measure the level of aggression, and we use a questionnaire or a measure of this verbal or physical aggression. Therefore, we also include this aggression in our how we measure aggression in our research design. So we consider a host of practical problems when we design a research design. So a research design can be, for instance, novel, or simply can be adapted from existing studies. We may prepare materials, or we may develop research tools or measures or equipments that we want to measure. So in research design also, we may show that how we are sure that the measures we are going to use in our research are exactly, objectively measure what we are intending to measure. So in order to check their the measures consistency in validity and reliability, we conduct a pilot study. So we conduct a miniature a miniature version of, or a mini version of our study using a pilot study to be sure whether the materials, the instruments work for our subjects, for our settings, target populations. The third component is choosing subjects. You need to decide whether to use human participants or animal subjects, where or to whom you administer the research measure or tool or instruments. So you ask yourself how to obtain your subjects or participants and how they will be handled in your study. So there are also ethical considerations. How do you handle your animal or human subjects in an ethical manner when you collect the data and after you collect the data? There are a host of issues on this choosing or selecting subjects. There are different ethical treatment strategies or techniques, but we'll not go through all that. So the fourth one is deciding on what to observe and appropriate measure. This is questions related to measures, tools, instruments, questionnaires, interviews that we use to measure or to collect the data. So decide exactly what it is you want to observe, which will be determined by the topic or issues that you have chosen to investigate. Remember that we have said your research design is dictated by your research objective. Likewise, what you observe or what you measure at this stage is the tools of data collection is determined by your topic or hypothesis. For instance, if you were interested in the issue of the impact of media violence on children's aggression, you may interview parents who have noticed an increase, who have seen an increase in their aggression recently after their children play violent video games. Or you may use an existing tool, an existing design, experimental design, like for instance, Drew's experimental design, adopt or adapt that type of experimental design to test the effects of distraction on driving ability. After choosing what to observe, you must next decide or what on the most appropriate ways to measure the behavior. For instance, should we use the same measure that Drews and other experimenters used, or should you develop a new one? So adopting or adapting the measure. The fifth one is conducting your study. Now you have actually chosen the participants to take part in your study. You must observe and measure their behavior. So this is recording uh, the data, recording qualitative or quantitative data for later analysis. The next one, the sixth one is analyzing your results and or data analysis or data interpretation better. So you decide on the type of statistical analysis, which is uh, based on your data level or level of measurement, whether your data is nominal, ordinal, in interval, in ratio, and then you decide on statistical analysis based on your level of measurement or characteristics or properties of your data. And at this stage, you summarize and analyze the data. The seventh one is reporting the results. Now you write a formal document or a formal paper or thesis or dissertation, usually with a specific citation style. For instance, American Psychological Association citation style is used in psychology and submit to a journal or for a department for review. You also may decide to present your paper at a meeting or you may submit your brief abstract for publication, for possible publication. The eighth one is starting the whole process again. Therefore, after just you have reported your results, after you have prepared the document, the thesis, the dissertation, the paper, formal paper. Now that research result may raise certain questions that remain unanswered in that paper or in the previous empirical studies. Therefore, because these questions serve as a springboard or seed for new study, you design a new study or replicate an interesting finding within the context of new study. So this is all. So this is all. Summing up, you start by asking questions and then you do background search. That means exploration, and then you construct hypothesis or objective, and then you test the with an experiment. This is bidirectional. So, for instance, you test with an experiment, and you may construct a hypothesis. It's bidirectional, it's not unidirectional. You analyze the results and draw conclusions. And if the hypothesis is true, you report the findings. If the hypothesis is false or partially true, you report the results, or simply you analyze the results and draw conclusion again, or simply you think again and try to construct a new hypothesis. This is all. Thank you.